Hey dudettes and dudles, my name is Ayla and welcome to a new podcast by the bisexual Black Diamonds.
My name Olive, I do things. There we go.
That's not your intro, how dare you? With me today, shut up.
You don't have to do it.
Yes I do.
Okay.
And Olive was a fancy lady who sticks out her little finger when she drinks Coca-Cola.
My name is Olive. Did you say Olive?
Did I say Olive?
You said Olive.
Okay, I clearly...
There are two of me.
Yeah, there's two Olives here. Brooch is a fancy lady who sticks out her little finger when she drinks and cuts her pizza with a scissor.
Hell yeah.
Why do I remember that line so well, but I don't remember yours?
Because hers is a lot funnier. It's just so fancy.
I think they're both funny, just in different ways.
It's just more memorable. Like cutting a pizza with scissors.
Yeah, but an Olive who is actually escaping from the police.
Yeah.
I mean, just imagine an Olive running down the hill.
Just rolling.
And with, like, police after her on bikes.
Freeze! Yeah, but it is Denmark after all.
Yeah.
Freeze, Olive! And it's like...
Doing, doing.
You never catch me alive!
And this time we have Hamilton in the room with us, so you're probably gonna be hearing him tweeting every now and then. But that just makes the whole thing so much more genuine and real, right?
Totally.
Yeah. This is the reality of people who has birds.
Yeah.
But yes, what we're gonna talk about today is a very Nordic tradition, which is TV Christmas calendars, which means that every day, all the way up to Christmas Eve, we have one episode of whatever story or show there's on, and it varies in length from like 5 minutes to 30 or even sometimes 50 minutes, depending on who the target group is. And we realized, or rather we figured out, that that would be a fun thing for us to talk about, because it's a huge part of our culture in Northern Europe, I think, in general.
I think only in Scandinavia, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's more a Scandinavian thing.
Tell us if you are not from Scandinavia and you disagree. Okay, well, we have a little list. We have 5 big, most important, in our opinion, Christmas calendars we'd like to talk about. And then we are going to have some special mentions where you think there's 1 or 2 elements in them you think are worth talking about.
Or are you gonna be quiet now?
Usually it gets quiet after a while.
I think it's just because we're talking that he's like, oh yeah, me too.
Yeah, he wants to talk too, that's the problem. Okay, the first Christmas calendar we're going to talk about is the one called the Yule Calendar from 1991. It's a mix of the Danish and English language, so if you don't speak Danish, it might be worth taking a look at one of the episodes. It's basically about 3 Christmas elves who has to find the book of something. I think I'm actually gonna let Brooch explain this one, because she's the one out of the 3 of us who knows this Christmas calendar the best.
Yeah, and it's funny enough, I watched this calendar with my sister, because my sister and I, we love the comedy of the calendar. It's a pretty stupid kind of humor, if you can say that, but it's the kind of humor that, I don't know, it's very random humor, and it makes fun of like the Danish dialects. You know, we have like Jylland, Fyn and Copenhagen people, and we each speak differently, and they make fun of that as well in the calendar. But basically the calendar is that in the first episode there's also this 4th Nisse elf who is called Gardenok, and he gets sick, and so the Nisserne, or the elves, they need to get this book or key to help Gardenok, because he's this old wise Nisse guy. And then there's this family that has the book, or well, the Nisse that lives underneath the family, but then there is this other character named Benny, and he's the bad guy of the calendar, and he wants to get this book as well, and yeah, that's basically what it's all in on about.
Okay, so that's the plot.
That's basically the plot.
And the episode's like 5 minutes long, aren't they?
Yeah, it's very short.
So like it's 5 times 24 minutes, so you can watch it if you like it pretty quickly.
Yeah,
exactly.
If you like Danglish.
Danglish,
it's
but
Danglish.
It's actually fun because the Nisserne, they speak both Danish and English, but they have German names.
Isn't Gammelnock like a pun on the words old enough?
I think
he's old enough.
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah,
that's basically what his name means.
He's old enough.
He's old enough. Yeah.
His name is old enough.
Yeah, basically.
But yeah, I would agree that it is kind of this stupid, random humor. But stupid doesn't necessarily mean bad. It depends on what you're into.
Exactly. There is, like I said, this Benny character. He when he drinks alcohol, for some reason he gets glasses and he gets like vampire teeth for some reason. And I don't know. I find that very hilarious.
Oliver and I are just like giving each other's look like, should we get help?
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen this Christmas
but
calendar.
that's the kind of random humor it has, and then it's the people that live, the humans. They are like, I think they're supposed to be like user stereotypes because they speak like funny jysk.
Oh.
Yeah, for in Denmark, jyde is the word for people who come from Jutland, and it's our version of like hillbillies.
Yeah.
If you want to get really rude and stereotypical.
Yeah, yeah.
It depends on where they are in Jutland, because Denmark is 3 different islands and Jutland is the biggest one. So that means the majority of Danes live there. So their dialects differ and such. But I would say like southern Jutland is where we have our most closest to what we can call stereotypical hillbillies.
Yeah. I'll say the same. Yeah.
No shame to southern Jutland people. My dad is southern Jutland.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no shame. It's we all know it's jokes. We make fun of each other all the time. And then there is the famous "Oh, it's so hard to be a nisseman" song.
It's so hard to be an elf dude.
An elf dude. But
Elf dude, I think that's.
But it's like to the tune of "The Lion Sleeps Tonight."
Yeah.
Right?
I think so.
Lion sleeps tonight.
I am.
Oh, it's hard to be a nisseman. I never noticed that actually.
Oh, yeah.
Don't think I ever really considered it.
Well, random.
The more you know.
Yes.
The next Christmas calendar we're going to be talking about is one that I think we've all kind of grown up with equally. It's the one called Pyrus. Or rather, it isn't called Pyrus. It's actually called The Greatest Christmas, The Greatest Christmas Elf, The Greatest Santa Claus, The Greatest Fairy Tales, because there's 4 or 5 different Christmas calendars, but they all have the same main character who's named Pyrus, but he's just one of the main characters, but he's basically what you would call a stereotypical 90s child character, in the sense that the 90s were all about like being rebellious towards the old people, so like the more popular characters were also the quote-unquote cool characters. So he was a Christmas elf who didn't have a normal pointy Christmas hat. He had a cap, a red cap that was still pointy like a Christmas hat, and he wore baggy pants, and he was like the intern or the student of wasn't he apprentice? He was the apprentice of a Christmas elf who back then was called
Wasn't it Gyllenkrog?
Yeah, they changed his name after the first series, the first series. But I remember that in the first show he was called Gutenberg. Yeah. I think the real reason they changed the name, I don't know this, but I think the real reason they changed the name is because most children probably didn't like the name. It was probably a little too old-fashioned, a little too boring, and not very Christmas elf-like. So it was changed to Golden Gruel. And then there's the third character, Candace, whose real name was Candida. But basically Pyrus was like, you can't be serious. And again, there was one of his puns, and it doesn't work in English, but it was funny in Danish.
Yeah, it works in Danish.
Yeah, and then they called her Candace. They live in...
library, right?
Yeah,
Or is
Chris are cute.
Oh, right.
It's where they had like all the important Danish documents.
Yeah, from all the way through history. It's kind of like a library for really old, significant historical documents. There are 2 humans there as well. The librarian, quote-unquote librarian, Bertramsen, and his daughter Josephine. What these all had in common was that they taught history to children. The very first one was about that a character from one of the books kind of sprung to life and had forgotten what book she came from. So they go through all of the Christmas history from all the way back to Jesus and so forth, and go through history and try to find where she came from. And at the end it turns out that she is the Christmas spirit. And then the next show was about the history of Christmas elves. Then it was the history of Santa Claus. And then at the final one, it was the history of fairy tales. And I think as much as I liked the last one, it was the one I grew up with the most. I think they kind of lost the edge there, because with the other ones they kind of taught history as well. But with fairy tales, it wasn't as much history of history, it was history of fairy tales. And that just isn't as educational.
And also not that much Christmas related.
Exactly. It wasn't really Christmas related, and it should have stayed Christmas related. The next Christmas calendar I think is really important to talk about is one that includes blasphemy, the apocalypse, and Satan. All Christmas related shit.
So fucking metal.
Do you guys know which one I'm talking about?
Jesus and Josephine.
I was like, you're gonna sing it now?
How can you not sing it?
The Christmas calendar we're talking about is called Jesus and Josephine, which is basically about a girl who meets this old man called Thorsten, who has a pawn shop or something like that. And Josephine in this pawn shop finds this little dollhouse type of thing that basically portrays the barn where Jesus was born. And there's Mary and Joseph and of course little baby Jesus. But the little baby Jesus is actually missing. So basically she puts her finger inside the crib, and that takes her back to the time when Jesus is the same age as her, meaning 12 years old. Christianity isn't actually talked about all that much. It's more the Christmas stuff, and basically she goes back in time, she meets Jesus, she befriends him, they actually kind of fall in love. And basically she on accident tells him what's going to happen to him when he's an adult, which in turn means that he doesn't want to eventually have to die as a barely grown man, and he runs off and becomes a gladiator.
As you do.
As you do.
Yeah.
And basically when she then returns to her present, everything is this apocalyptic nightmare. And it turns out that Thorsten is Satan, and basically this whole thing was his plot to take over the world. Josephine now has to find this little barn where she originally found Jesus and go back in time and fix what she did wrong so he can grow up and become Jesus.
I think the reason the whole world became apocalyptic is because Jesus never came out and preached about to be good.
And to be the Christian values,
yeah, the
so
Christian
to speak.
values,
Yeah.
exactly. Because when you watch the apocalyptic world, everyone is an asshole, one way or another. So,
It's actually interesting because on one hand this whole show is very blasphemous, but on the other hand it also glorifies Christianity, basically stating that if Jesus never existed, quote unquote, then the whole world would be horrible. It's kind of this weird mix of blasphemy and glorification.
It's not that much in your face as it could have been. You know, it could have been very glorifying Christianity and Jesus and all of that, but I don't think it is like that. It's a nice balance, if you can say so.
Yeah, they definitely focus on what should be focused on, and that's her relationship with Christmas, her family, her relationship with Jesus, literally.
My relationship with Jesus.
That time when I fell in love with Jesus, how about that?
How about that?
How about that?
Speaking of religions, the next Christmas calendar we want to talk about is called Christmas in Valhalla. This TV calendar was about Nordic mythology, Nordic religion. Because before we were Christians back in the day, at least us Danes, we believed in the Nordic gods. Yeah. And most of you probably know at least Thor and Loki from the Avenger movies. And just as a side note, I like these movies, but it's very weird for me to see what were our actual religious gods back in the day now portrayed as superheroes and supervillains.
Yeah,
it's weird.
But that's for another day.
it kind of gives me this South Park super best friends vibe.
Yeah. True.
I mean, yeah, basically, but I mean, I think in the Marvel movies they're supposed to be aliens and not really gods, so it's like, okay.
That doesn't make it less blasphemous.
I mean, there are still people who believe in the Nordic gods, so it is technically blasphemous.
Yeah. It's kind of weird, but with that being said, it's not like this was the first time that the Nordic gods and mythology was kind of turned into this slightly gimmicky, modern, whatever, because there also exist comics with them.
Yeah, exactly.
This Christmas calendar is about two kids who semi, quote unquote, accidentally frees Loki, the villain of the entire show, who is then planning to release Ragnarok upon the gods and therefore the earth. And for those who don't know, Ragnarok is the apocalypse. It's the end of the world, literally.
Yeah.
So these two children have to travel to Valhalla and warn the gods and make them strong. And we meet all these Nordic gods played by Danish actors and such. And it's just a little bit weird. It's weird, but it's really, really fun.
Yeah. For some reason, I remember this Christmas calendar very clearly, or not like very clearly, but it's the most memorable one for me. I think it's because of the Nordic mythology mixed in. At the time, that was not something I had seen before. At the time, I say I was like 10, but it's interesting to see that, and also the portrayal of the gods. Like when you see Loki in the Avengers, and then you compare it to this Loki, you're like, what the hell? If anybody, you should listen to Loki's Rhapsody on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's really, just the music video on its own is kind of weird. Keep in mind, this is for children, and Loki is basically rapping, spoke wording, whatever to call it, and there's these sexy girls in fur bikinis next to him.
Maybe that's what we're by.
That might be it, actually.
Wait a minute.
It all makes sense now.
The last main TV Christmas calendar we want to talk about is Teddy's Christmas Journey.
Yeah!
Now, throwing this out there immediately, it's from 1996, and the main characters in it were already famous Danish children characters, in the sense that Teddy, who is this big yellow bear wearing a red tie or something like that.
I would say red.
And there's his friends Chicken and Duckling, and there's also some humans in it, Luna and Aske. I remember the Christmas elf, this evil Christmas elf. Basically this story... Give me a moment!
He's like, yeah!
Basically, this Christmas calendar is about this evil Christmas elf who is in Santa's sleigh with him, and he's throwing out some of the presents that Santa needs to make presents for the children, and they land where Teddy, Duckling, and Chicken live. So they have to take the things and get them to Santa, and that's the overall plot.
Yeah.
It's worth mentioning that unlike the others we've talked about so far, where the Euler Calendar is kind of for adults mostly, I think, or maybe teenagers, and Pyrus, Jesus, and Josephine, and Christmas and Valhalla are for children and teenagers, Teddy's Christmas Journey is more for small children. But that being said, it's still enjoyable. I remember so many really funny moments in it.
Yeah.
It's cute.
And not just the Christmas calendar, also the whole show in itself. It's very progressive, if you can say so. I mean, Teddy is a male character, but he likes to wear his pink tutu,
yeah.
and Chicken is technically non-binary. It doesn't have a real gender, or we don't know that.
That's true, yeah.
And I think Duckling is female or something like that. So it's I'm not sure if Duckling is.
I never noticed what pronouns they were using, honestly.
Yeah.
But good for Teddy.
Yeah, so
I never really thought about it that way.
No.
Yeah, but it's definitely, it play a lot with these gender roles and all of that. So it's
Yeah, and considering it's for small children, that's actually pretty important.
Yeah.
So here at the end of the podcast, we would like to have some special mentions, meaning some Christmas TV calendars we thought were worth mentioning but not really get into depth about. The first one is The Secret of Epsen, and I'll hand that one over to Brooch.
I think that's
Keep in mind, it's a special mention, not a depth analysis.
I tried to make it short, but basically the story is that there's this girl, she has a sister who is sick, and she wants her to be healthy again, and by doing that she needs to find this angel or find Absalon's secret. And Absalon, he is this guy who created Copenhagen. If you go to Copenhagen and Rådhuspladsen and you see this golden statue, that's Absalon. He's the guy who made Copenhagen, and that's the basic story. And she meets this guy who no, I don't want to spoil, but
She meets a guy.
And
She meets a dude.
She meets this little boy, and he helps her to find out what this secret is, and then hopefully her sister will get healthy again. Mm-hmm.
And why does this Christmas TV calendar mean so much to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the only reason it means so much is because I watch it with my sisters, so it's one of my fondest memories, and also because I thought the story was pretty good.
I remember that I couldn't bring myself to watch it because the guy who plays Absalom was in my class.
Oh.
And to me that was just too weird. I couldn't watch it. I couldn't watch him like play a character when I knew him from school.
Yeah.
I was a simple kid. I just thought it was boring.
The next special mention I would like to talk about is one with also an already known child character from Denmark known as Trollerik, which is kind of a play on the word troll and the name Frederick.
Yeah.
So it's Trollrik, you know?
Trollrik.
Trollrik. That sounds like a trollolo version of Rick rolling, doesn't it?
Yeah, kind of.
Rick trolling. But yeah, I want mostly to talk about this one, not because of the Christmas calendars, but because of Trollrik himself. He's creepy. He's really creepy.
I can't really remember what he looks like, but I think you might have shown me.
I've never seen the calendar, but I don't doubt that isn't he like a puppet?
Yeah, he's a puppet.
all right,
He's
yeah.
from the 90s.
Yeah.
I think the first Christmas calendar with him was from the 1990s, and keep in mind, he existed before that.
Yeah.
So he's from the 80s. And the next special mention is one I believe Olive wanted to talk about, which is Christmas at Kronborg.
No, that was Brooch.
Was that Birch too?
That's,
Okay.
Yeah.
Olive can't remember shit from her childhood.
But I think I know that you remember this one as well due to their songs, because they have a lot of special songs or songs that you catchy and remembers. But basically the story for this one is a little weird, or I'm not sure if I understand the story or no.
Sure, because the other stories were so normal.
Yeah, they all make sense, right?
Yeah, but I mean, this one is like we have this family who goes. I don't know if they go on vacation on this Kronborg, but on this Kronborg there are ghosts and there are Nissa, and I'm just like, what?
Side note: Kronborg is a very historical castle in Helsingør in Denmark. Just so you know that.
I think that's the one where Hamlet takes place in.
I think that's right.
Oh no, it is. Yeah.
I just thought it was a funny concept to see these ghosts in the castle and the Nis in it, but when I watch it now, it's an awful green screen, but you know, it's still fun.
Well, the most of the TV calendars we're talking about here are from the 90s, and Christmas at Kronborg was just in the 2000s.
Yeah.
So that means that, yeah, it was shitty effects, but so was Pyrus.
Yeah,
But we kind of just loved it anyway.
Yeah, but I don't think Euler Combo was that popular, because I don't remember it watching reruns of it like I did with Pyrus, because there were a lot of reruns of that, but not with this one.
I also never seen the reruns. I think they only shown this one time and that's it.
Yeah.
And I think because it didn't do that well.
It was also
I
weird.
think it has been shown again at other Christmases, but not as much as, for example, Pyrus, where there is at least one of their Christmas calendars that is shown every year.
Yeah.
It's also worth noting that in comparison to the 90s, nowadays we have so many more TV Christmas calendars. Not just the reruns, but just more and more. I think this year you can choose between like 8 different ones you want to watch.
So many. For adults too.
Yeah. The next special mention is the Christmas Elf Gang in Greenland, which is also one of the more continuous TV Christmas calendars we had, because they've been in Greenland. There was also like where they went to an island and stuff like that. I don't remember this one that much, but the reason why it's worth mentioning is because it has the inarguably most popular and well-known Christmas song in Danish history.
Yeah.
About an extremely Christmassy dish called rice porridge, with cinnamon sugar and usually some butter on top, and like a slab of butter in the middle.
Yeah, just a good slap.
Yeah, exactly. And the last special mention is the Crumbles Christmas. Also one of the continuous shows, because I think they had a normal running show as well or something.
Yeah,
I think the Crumbles family in general is semi-known in Denmark. But the main reason I want to talk about this Christmas calendar is because it scarred children who watched it because of this big ass mechanical rat with red eyes.
Yep.
It was terrifying. And the thing is, I remembered it being terrifying, but because we were going to be talking about this, I actually Googled the rat because I wanted to see if it was still scary. And it's still terrifying to look at.
It is, yeah.
It's not just because you're a child, it's a terrifying thing to look at.
Yeah, it's like Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
It also doesn't help that the fact the rat is even there is because there is this implied, if these Christmas elves that are not the Crumbles family, they're normal humans, but these Christmas elves that are in this show, if they fail or break the rules, they come into this basement where the rat is, and I think they actually talk about how the rat will try to eat them.
Yeah.
And it looked like the rat would try to eat them.
It's, yeah. It's for kids, you know? Kids love it.
Since we have so much time left, is there anything else you guys would... All of you haven't talked all that much. Do you have a Christmas TV calendar you think is worth mentioning? Or side note?
I could maybe talk about the newer ones.
Sure.
Because even though I am a 20-something-year-old woman, I do watch them. I started watching them again because I needed to turn my brain off. Let's see. I'm trying to remember which ones were really weird. Oh, the one last year was a... Oh, I do not know the English title for it, but a Theo og den magiske talisman.
Theo and the Magical Talisman.
Yeah, basically, just but that was basically about a boy who had to accept his grandfather was dying.
Aww.
Oh, what a Christmas cheery thing!
And he tried to go into, like, what I only could describe as purgatory to, like, get him back, and his grandfather was like, no, accept the fact that I'm dead. And then he had to go back. That's all I remember because I was just like, wow, do kids watch these?
There is this Danish stand-up comedian who actually made fun of these TV Christmas calendars and talked about how progressively the last few years they've become more and more about the apocalypse and become more and more dark.
Yeah, they have.
And basically he made this joke that this year's Christmas TV calendar is about Santa Claus dying. And you know what? They might actually do that.
Yeah, at one point. I mean, there was also another one that was actually called The Other World, about a girl who, I think she hit her head, and then she was in a coma, and then she went into this, like, Alice in Wonderland kind of place where she kind of had to decide if she wanted to stay there or be in the real world. So she would actually make herself faint, I think, to get into that world.
That's also a really dark concept, but it's very interesting as well.
It was kind of interesting to see, but
was that Christmas?
Yeah.
Let's see if we can. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
It
doesn't sound very Christmassy.
No,
it sounds like a thriller movie.
Well, I feel like the newer Christmas calendars are not as well. This is also what they've gotten like bad reviews about. Is that they're not very Christmassy.
Yeah.
They're not much about Christmas and I can see that. It's not like there aren't that many elves. Santa's not.
There doesn't have to be Christmas elves or Santas in it. It just has to have some connection to Christmas.
Yeah.
I think out of all of these, the one I would recommend people to watch the most is any of the Pirates ones. Because it's educational. I would say the majority of my history knowledge comes from that one.
Yeah, I would recommend Christmas in Valhalla because it's good and it's about Nordic mythology and it's cool. So
yeah, I think I will recommend the Yule Calendar because you get to know a little about Danish comedy, but also kinda.
That's offensive.
Yeah.
But you know, also like Danish puns and Danish stereotypes and all of that.
How do we end this?
Bye.
Bye.
Merry Christmas.
Oh yeah.
Happy holidays and a happy new year.
See you in 2020.
2020 vision.
I wanted to make the same joke. God damn it.
No, 2020 hindsight.
Oh wait, we're starting.
Well, yeah.
Okay. Do you need an introduction?
Well, yeah, obviously.
Sorry.
You need an introduction.
That's why I'm quiet.
Yeah, shush, Hamilton. You're not part of this. You are not a part of the bisexual Black Diamonds. No, you're not. You're not black, nor bisexual, or diamond.